Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Power rankings, a huge topic of discussion with the season just about to get underway. The top 4 teams seems relatively clear-cut, but ZooMaa definitely has his concerns on this OpTic Texas roster. So many superstars on this team, no doubt about it. If they click well, they could, if not should be, the best team in the game, up there with FaZe. Obviously, New York and Toronto also in the discussion. But could there be some issues with the amount of talent and superstar players on this roster? Are they going to mesh well? Who's going to do the dirty work? Can they figure it out as a team, or are they going to fall flat in maybe a similar way to FaZe did in the most recent season? Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. Firstly, this from Exceed. This is a challengers team for the new season. Exceed, Assault, Brack, Havoc, and Mayhem. So I'm guessing Mayhem's going to be here as the coach for these guys because, yeah, he was assistant coach. I forget exactly who he was with. Yeah, I think he was with LAG this most recent season, coaching over there, helping them out. But of course, that, well, hasn't lasted too much longer given what's going on. Now, to be honest, these are some of the players that you'd have expected to be linked to LAG, right? I mean, Assault, he was there before, Brack, Exceed, Havoc, the types of players that should be on the cusp of getting signed. And to be fair, we have seen challenger teams get confirmed in recent weeks. You know, there was a team with GodRx and Gwyn and stuff like that, like Neptune and Temp, whatever it was going to be. And then a couple of days later, we hear that actually, yeah, GodRx is getting signed to Carolina. So just because they say it's a challenger team doesn't necessarily mean that LAG couldn't swoop in and get a couple of these guys. I guess we'll see. But yeah, the plan is for them to team together with Mayhem as coach, which kind of shows what Los Angeles Grillers are not cooking at the moment. 100 Thieves. This organization was a couple of years ago in such a good position. They were the organization that everyone wanted to go and work for. It's been a bit of a shambles 100T over the last year or so. The way that things have gone behind the scenes, a lot of the sponsorships that haven't been going so well, a lot of money just going down the drain to such an extent that a lot of their, the COD team, their other teams having to take budget cuts and play it a little bit safer. That might work out well for them long term, but again, more employee layoffs going on over the last couple of days. There are 100 Thieves. Even from Sesso here, a guy who I've not been too familiar with his work, but from what everybody says, this guy is an absolute superstar in that role for the team. And yeah, he's now been let go and affected by 100T layoffs. I'm sure others have as well. So yeah, not a good sign. In addition to this from John Robinson, who comes out and says that they're spinning off Juvie and their 100 Thieves game development studio to reduce the size of the team. Now, I think they will still maintain some minority ownership, but Juvie and the game studio will effectively become their own companies going forwards and will not be part of 100 Thieves. We believe it's time to refocus on our core business and do less but better. During the esports franchising era, we saw tremendous growth, but we cannot afford as large of an organization as before, and that responsibility falls on himself. And of course, Matt Nature Haig, the CEO of the company, so they go on to discuss exactly what's going on there. But yeah, this, I don't really know why. The game studio always was confusing to me. I know that Juvie was like a project of Nadeshots, and to be fair, I think it's done reasonably well, but it's like, getting into that industry is difficult, you know what I mean? Like the energy drink market or whatever exactly it falls into, it's pretty competitive out there. And the distribution angle of things, the marketing angle of things, it's not an easy thing for an esports organization effectively to actually maintain. So they're spinning that off. The game development was like, I don't exactly know why they did this. I don't know if it was because they were living in a time where there were like no interest rates, the VC money was piling in, and they thought, sure, this will be fun, let's do it. But developing a game is, if you thought doing an energy drink was difficult enough in terms of marketing, distribution, all this stuff, developing a game is a whole nother beast in and of itself. The amount of resources, the funding, all of this stuff that takes to pull something like that off is just, I don't know, that was very, very ambitious. And it's got to a point where clearly it's not working out as it presently is. So maybe this is good for 100T in the medium term, that they are going to have more money to focus on trying to do better at what they should be focusing on trying to do better at. But yeah, clearly from where 100T were, conquering the world like a couple of years ago, it's not been looking so good lately. I don't know how that's going to trickle down to their COD team or the operations over there, but it doesn't seem like the money is just magically going to return to this team. Quickly to mention on Surge as well, there has been a lot of discussion what roles this team's going to run. Is it going to be the Arcetes Illy AR duo with aBeZy on the sub? Just confusing because aBeZy dominated the challenger scene last year, really. And if you're Toronto Ultra and you're bringing Scrappy into your team, as they did for the new season, Are you going to put him on an SMG? No, you're not, right? You're going to put him on an AR, which is the role that he's best at and wants to play, which is, you know, the same situation with aBeZy, but apparently that's not going to be the case. Dylan pointed this out to me here, that Arsties was in a Twitch chat commenting on this and seems to say, I think I see Huke and fake ab using, which I guess is meaning like Huke and aBeZy using the SMGs, because I'm not running it. Inda's my main. So, I don't know, I think that's what he's getting at, that Arsties and Ilya are going to be the AR duo. It's going to be aBeZy and Huke on the SMGs. It's kind of what we predicted, but I'm not sure that it will end that way. I would say there's a very good chance that at some point this season, aBeZy and Ilya maybe swap roles, and I just don't know if I'm convinced by this Arsties Ilya AR duo. I guess time will only tell. Now let's talk about this OpTic team, right? Because lots of controversy. Who's going to be the best of the top 4? What should the power rankings potentially look like? And everyone wants to give their thoughts on who's going to be the top team. On paper, the way these teams are being formed, FaZe is probably the best, just based on, you know, what we know historically, and also because there's maybe less risk with FaZe than others, just because you kind of know what you're going to get of the trio, and then Drazah comes in. But the other team I think that should be competing for the top spot this year is OpTic. Like, on paper, I'm not sure OpTic could have really done any better than what they have done going into this season, and if I'm going to look at the CDL standings at the end of the season, I'm expecting to see either OpTic or FaZe there. Does that translate into event wins? Whatever, we'll see. Of course, Subliners were not top of the standings this year, but they still won the most events, including the World Championship. ZooMaa gives his thoughts on this. He also gave his thoughts on the YouTube exclusivity and says that he is 95% sure that the YouTube deal has happened and will happen, and that will be the case. That seems to be what Scump's implied as well. I feel like we've kind of known this for some time, as frustrating as it is. So we'll see. Maybe there's still the 5% in there, and who knows if ZooMaa's actually right on this stuff. Hopefully he's not, but I will not be surprised at all if he is. But he also talks about OpTic and says that as far as he's concerned, too many superstar cooks in the kitchen could be an issue for them.
But my main concern with the OpTic squad is just too many superstars. Like, I actually don't know if OpTic is going to be that team that meshes well together. Like, obviously, all the talent is there, but their play styles, like the way AG plays, like, I know how he likes to play, bro. He likes to
They don't have an Envoy.
They don't have, yeah, well, here's the thing, right? And we saw, like, Shotzzy on Dallas Empire, right? When he kind of, he ended up having to be like that hill bitch, like the way he was playing, and it just wasn't working out.
They
and
had him running trophy smoke.
They had him running a trophy smoke.
Trophy smoke at the beginning of Opera 2019.
A trophy smoke, like, and it wasn't looking good, right? And then they let Shotzzy do what he wants, right? You let Pred do what he wants. They're going to roam. They're going to get their kills. They're going to do their thing. But it's like the other things. You know how Dashy likes to play, right? And bro, when you look at these players, I mean, and this is what I said in the podcast, this team has the upside to be like the best team in the game if everything is clicking and they get it right. You know what I mean? But because of the play styles, I have a concern. And
I mean, it's just gonna be on Ken. Yeah,
and guys, people are saying FaZe. I said the same thing about FaZe. The same thing. Ben, how many times did we say FaZe? They're getting so many kills and they're not getting in points. And they're not doing the little things. I mean, I think that's why FaZe struggled as well. I think OpTic might run into that same problem.
Well,
now,
I think New York might have the same problem now. Dropping Preston for Dante is definitely a skill upgrade, but it's going to create some, you know, issues with how you want to play certain situations from a like dirty work standpoint.
X's comment, I think, as well was kind of interesting when he said that they don't have an Envoy. Now, I remember specifically a comment that was made during Cold War when it was formal Dashy, Scump, and Envoy, when they, I think maybe it was on the flank, I don't know where it was, but someone made a comment that they need a player like Asim, and because Asim was doing bits at the time on the New York roster, that was the early part of the season, and yeah, OpTic maybe are lacking like a dirty work player like that, but nowadays we're saying, oh, they need a player like Envoy, of course the player they had at the time, and people were saying they needed somebody else. So it's always this constant cycle. Now, has Envoy evolved as a player over the last couple of years? Yes. Is he now a world champion? He wasn't then. Yes. Is he going to be theoretically a really good improvement to Toronto? I would say also yes. But also, they could have got Envoy back, right? If they wanted to, they could have got Envoy back in, probably. They were early rumors they were having discussions with Envoy and Drazah. Neither of those happens. Of course, Pred comes in, and look, I like the way this is going. Kenny is going to be probably the most important piece to making this team work. If he can get the leadership right, if he can get everything clicking with JP, Krez, and Karma behind the scenes, this team can be really good. But I think, you know, Kenny's going to be a very crucial pickup to making this roster work, and if the rest of the guys on the team don't mesh so much with Kenny's style, a decision's going to have to be made. My opinion on SMG players especially is that if you just put enough talent together, it should be possible to make it work. Now, I know that I've criticised the New York Subliners move to some degree of bringing Simp in for Priestahh. I think that's a slightly different story. Firstly, they just won champs, so taking a risk like that is nonetheless a significant risk. And when you're looking at like a flex AR role, Priestahh was... Priestahh could drop a 0.9, 0.95 and do whatever was necessary on the map. That's not necessarily a do or die role. Your main impact is coming from your SMGs and your heavy slaying AR in Skyz. Priestahh's role is the upgradable role, but nonetheless, is it one that if you do upgrade it, it massively improves the team? Not necessarily. Whereas on the SMG side, that's where you really do need the next level talent, right? I mean, look at the SMGs around the league. We've now got Envoy, CleanX here on Toronto. Even further down, the likes of, Standy Nero on Vegas, or, something like that is pretty promising. But Pred Shotzzy, Simp aBeZy, HyDra Kismet, all the SMG talent is stacked up here right at the top of the league. There's no doubt about it. And I think the main concern from ZooMaa seems to be that, Shotzzy, Pred, and Dashy, to some extent Kenny, but I think Kenny will really do whatever it takes to step into whatever role, to play the hill, whatever's needed to let the other guys work is what Kenny will do. And he's been willing to do that in previous years as well. So Kenny is a superstar in terms of talent and ability, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he's going to be locked into playing like that. And honestly, I think that Dashy's been better the most recent season, especially at playing a little bit more for the team. That's definitely a big talking point, rather than just there to drop massive numbers in and of himself. There will be some adjustment from the SMG side. I think there's no doubt about it that they will need to figure out what's going on there. Like, are they going to play as Simp and aBeZy play with Shotzzy in first, Pred in second? How's it going to work in Search and Destroy? Because Shotzzy and Pred both did the entry SMG role for their respective teams last season. So how's that going to work? Who's going to take on the aBeZy role in Search and Destroy? Or are they going to have their own style? HyDra Kismet play in a different way to Simp and aBeZy do. Maybe Pred and Shotzzy can more so emulate that. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I actually think that's what I would do. I would look at the way HyDra and Kismet played last year, and I would have Pred as my HyDra and Shotzzy as my Kismet. That probably could work. And then you get some of the dirty work, you get some of the hill time, stuff like that from Shotzzy. That's how I'd prefer to do it, but we'll see. My general opinion is that when you've got players as good as Shotzzy and Pred, you've got a guy like Karma there as the coach, you've got Kenny over there as kind of like the in-game leader. There's no way they shouldn't be able to make that work, right? Like, I don't really care how much potential risk there is. When you've got this much talent, there's just no way that it shouldn't work. But definitely intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below on what of those teams could be the best one. I saw this interesting ranking here from Archives COD, putting Subliners as their favourite for the new year, then FaZe, then Ultra, then OpTic number 4. Thieves, Boston, pretty much unanimously, I would say they're 5th, 6th in some respects. Then you get down to what he says is Rocket, Miami, Ravens, Surge, Legions, Gorillas. I guess Gorillas have to be top 12 at the moment. But yeah, I thought definitely a controversial ranking of the top 4 to say the very least. But intrigued to your perspective in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.